I originally come from Wales. I come from a coal mining family. Most of my family ended up working in the pits, and when it was my time to enter the workforce, I was destined to work underground with my father as well. I went to the National Coal Board seeking an apprenticeship. I went underground once and didn't like it. I think I've always been a bit claustrophobic, and going down in one of those cages wasn't my cup of tea, and I much prefer to work on the surface. So, as I say, I ended up working in the steel industry. The valleys were very unionised. Over periods of time, workers had a constant struggle to get better working conditions. I can remember quite vividly going to branch meetings with my father. I can remember quite clearly today, we used to have discussions around the kitchen table when he came home for the evening meal, talking about the disputes they used to have for the pit head. You know, in the early days they had no pit head baths or anything like that. You know, they had to fight every inch of the way. If you are not in a collective and you are not there fighting together to better your conditions, then you're not going to. And you know, that's a lesson that I learned very early in life. And I had a very good apprenticeship in the steelworks. Unfortunately, when the government nationalised the steel industry, effectively they were on the road to downsize the industry to compete with the likes of Japan and Korea, and hence that then led to downsizing of the workforce. And I was in amongst the second batch of people to be made redundant. I was a member of the union right from the very beginning, and when they started making the apprentices redundant, the union went out to make sure that the apprentices were looked after. They came and offered me a job with an electrical contractor in London. I only worked in London for about 6 months as an apprentice. Then I got my papers, and then shortly after that I headed around the world, South Africa and other places. So I originally came here on a working holiday, which was 12 months. I travelled right around Australia when I first got here, and I worked, you know, quite a number of jobs, not as an electrician when I first came here. For me to be staying in Australia was never really a long-term thing. I'd actually also got a visa to go to Canada, and it was always my plan to go to Canada after spending maybe 18 months, 2 years in Australia. Needless to say, I never got to Canada.
Have you ever been to Canada?
No, but I'd like to go one day. I've always thought the Australians have had a very, you know, kind of good sense of humour, so, you know, I thought, well, it wouldn't be a bad place to settle. Of course, there's always a woman that factors into the case, and I met my wife, still my wife, here in Melbourne, and that was one of the key reasons why I ended up staying. I joined the union the afternoon that I landed here. That's when I found out that I would have to really get a licence, you know, because back in the UK, the embassy people told me, oh, you'll get a job easy in your trade, you know. Well, it wasn't that easy at the end of the day, you know. I had to go back to school and everything. So, yeah, so I joined up the union then, and I've been in the union ever since. I then got a job with the tramway board in the substation area. I would say within probably 2 months I was the shop steward. In those days they had the poles with the little carbon block at the top, and we used to have to get up on the tram every few days and change that carbon block. There were no static lines on the trams, there was nothing there, so you get up there and really you've got nothing to, there were no harnesses, there was nothing. So you get up there on a ladder and you're on a roof, one false thing, you're off the tram, and then you had a pit below you, so you'd fall 14, 16 foot. You know, if you did, then it's all over, you know, because you'd invariably hit the rail or something on the way down. So I started a campaign, and it was out at Kew Depot. And I started a campaign with everybody that we wouldn't go up on the top of the trams until they actually put in a static line or a walkway that we could actually, you know, get up on and then step off that walkway onto the trams. You know, I said, well, you know, you tell me what you're going to do in terms of somebody falls off one of these things. One day down at South Melbourne, that's exactly what happened. Somebody slipped and went down between the trams and was severely injured. So after that, people started taking notice of what I was saying, and we had the first static lines put in queue, and very quickly had all the rest of the depots with them, and we eventually got walkways where we can work directly off the platform on a tram. So if I go to a tram depot today, you know, I'll look up at these static lines and think, well, I did that, you know, it makes me feel good. I think, you know, all of my work in life, I've had a connection to the union. Even before I started work, I had a connection to the union through my father. And I think, you know, years ago, you know, back in the steelworks, I was involved with the union. You know, I wanted to be involved with it then. When various different countries I've worked, when I was in Africa, as I said, I was a member of the metal workers union over there, and I was active there. And, you know, when I came to Australia, I was active. So, at the end of the day, if I look back on my work in life, it's about me being in the union. It's about me doing the best I can for my fellow workers at the end of the day.